the Kalameka murders, there wasn't really any evidence that really proves that he was guilty of it. I mean, the whole dental issues about his teeth, it was truly fabricated. It's a stated fact that it was manipulated. It wasn't accurate.
There was another case, too, where the girl changed her clothes.
I can't remember.
This whole thing where, like, he would change their clothes or go back to their apartment and get clothes and change their clothes and change their makeup, too, after they were dead, and have sex with them after they're dead,
Yeah. I think maybe we can start about Bundy's childhood.
Go ahead.
With childhood you can further find indications of behavior, yeah. I think, Ted Bundy was illegitimate. He didn't know his father. There are many rumors, which I think is true, that his grandfather was actually his father. And his sister was actually his mother. And he had his stepfather and was growing up just exactly the same scenario like Jack Nicholson. He really believed that his mother was his sister and his grandparents were his parents. And I think you're really, really going mad if you are pretending to be a brother if you know it's your mother. I think it's not really normal circumstances.
Right.
And there's also two childhood friends of him, Sandy and Doug Holt, who wrote a book, Ted and Ant, The Mystery of the Missing Child and the Neighbor Ted Bundy, about the mystery of Ann Byrne. And they said that their father was sexually abusive to them, both. And their father most likely have sexually abused Ted at Boy Scout camp. So he was maybe sexually abused at a young age. And at a young age also his aunt told a story that on several occasions when she was asleep at bed, he would come into the room and put all knives around the bed with the blades towards her. And when she told this to the family, they all ignored them like it was nothing no, doesn't matter. So this is really extreme, difficult behavior. I mean, a child of 3 or 4 years of age that demonstrates that kind of behavior really witnessed some creepy shit around that family household or anything else.
And Bundy was a peeping Tom as a child?
Yes, he was also canvassing the neighborhood, peeping Tom, drinking alcohol. He was also an excellent shoplifter. This guy was truly the perfect shoplifter. He could steal everything. He would steal everything: food, plants, TVs, a rug, everything, art.
Really?
Yeah. There's also a story of those two childhood friends that he would take young girls to the woods and try to remove their pants and then urinate on them.
Really?
So that's also really weird behavior. Really, many people have to read that book. I'm not trying to promote anything, but it's really a demonstration of early behavior of Ted Bundy, which clearly indicates of him being a serial killer, of being not in his right mind.
Yeah, send me a link. Do you have the contact information for the authors?
No, I don't have. I only have the PDF file.
Yeah, I'll try and find the authors, man. And also, too, a satanic connection, too, is he would remove their heads, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he always only found skulls of the victims. Yeah, but the most really when these murders started at Seattle, I think 1972, 1973. There was a complete lack of information around law enforcement. They all said those girls just vanished. The earth just swallowed them up and they disappeared. These are to me really indications of occult activity. Like there is something happening, but nobody's talking about it. Like we don't want to talk about it.
And he also had political connections.
Yes.
He acted as a driver for the lieutenant governor. And he said himself that he had help during his jail escape. He says, well, there were others involved, you know?
Yeah, I really think Bundy, really think that most of those girls that were disappearing around Seattle, Utah, excuse me, they were, I think, ritual sacrifices. They were really sacrificed for local covens or something like that, around that. And also drug trafficking, because there are a few abductions, I think, of Debbie Kent and Carol DeRange that were not really around the same geographic proximity. So it really couldn't be Bundy at the same day abducting two women because it wasn't the time frame doesn't add up. But they were always hammering like it was elusive Ted. It was elusive Ted.
And he also says too. They asked him what happened to one of the heads, and he started talking about, well, there's other people that are more efficient at doing this. They have a furnace in their basement, and then he says, and then went back to him and says, well, how did you do the head? And he said he threw it in a fireplace, you know. But he talks about other people being involved.
Yeah, I really think that Ted was really narcissistic, and he was also a law school student. He really thought he could work his way up through the judicial system. But if you really, McGowan did really good investigation in Ted Bundy's case. If you really look at his first conviction in Utah, the attorney, the judge, and the public defender were all school friends at the University of Utah. This guy, Ted Bundy, was completely railroaded at his first trial because the public defender and the attorney and the judge were all friends of each other. So there was a complete bias against the defendant.
Oh, really? So, but you don't think he was guilty of that one up there in Utah? There was attempted abduction.
Really, no. And if you look at the evidence, there's almost only circumstantial evidence. There's not really any evidence that really demonstrates his involvement.
That's interesting. Okay, then whoever framed him on that would have to know that this guy was up to this kind of activity, though.
Yeah, what I did know is that the killing which he was convicted for was Karen Campbell, and she was found in the ski resort somewhere, and her husband was a doctor. And then she also had a physical altercation on that same day she was found dead, and it was elusive death according to law enforcement, but who knows?
She had a physical altercation. You think that was with her husband?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
There's one more thing about the Kaomeka murders. All those girls were found dead in at least 12 minutes. Two girls dead, 3 girls sexually assaulted, all perpetrated by one guy, which I found very unlikely. One investigator said under oath in the trial, Ray Crew, he testified in court that the body of Lisa Levy was cool upon the touch of discovery. I mean, she was dead, according to the official story, like 50 minutes, and then the police came. How the hell could that body be cool? This is, for me, an indication that she was already dead when she was laying in bed, and they were orchestrating other murders and other sexual attacks to cover up that homicide, I think. Because there's no other explanation why that body is cool upon the touch of discovery.
Do we know what the temperature was outside when they discovered it?
Let me think. No, not to my.
Okay.
No.
Let me ask you a question, because you think we covered everything with Bundy?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Because 3 times as you've been talking, I've written down Richard Ramirez to ask you questions about Richard Ramirez, and every time I keep forgetting. So now, you have a theory that Richard Ramirez is not involved in any of those murders, or not involved alone. What is your theory about Ramirez?
Well, in the last part of my YouTube series, I showed an interview with him, and he said bluntly to the interviewer that he was appealing all 13 murders. So if he's appealing all 13, I really think he's innocent of all 13, that this guy was really a prime example of being a scapegoat, a patsy.
Now, but you listened to the interview I did with Kelly Bonansky, who used to talk to Ramirez on the phone?
No, I can't remember that you said that last interview, but can you say it again, please?
Yeah, because what happened was she became a telephone pal with Richard Ramirez when he was in prison. And she said that she would ask him about the murders, and he says, oh, yeah, that was all Satanism. That was all for Satan. And then he would change the subject and go on to different things. But I don't think he ever denied the murders to her, and to her at least. I'll give you access to all that after the show's over. I'll send you a password so you can go listen to that stuff. There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah, I can remember in the McGowan's research, he also extensively investigated the Ramirez case. And there are many physical descriptions that didn't add up to the physical description of Richard Ramirez. They all said it was someone else. So, and also the victims were not, I think, randomly chosen. They were really deliberately targeted. There were drug trafficking connections. There were law enforcement connections. There were Freemasonic connections. I mean, those are not all coincidental.
Yeah, wasn't there one of them was organized crime too? That they were organized crime family.
The Zara family. Yeah.
Yeah, and Brandon, didn't they have like guns all over the house when he got in somehow? You know. Yeah.
Almost like the BTK, Dennis Rader, the Otero family. He also warned his family for a coming attack. So yeah.
Yeah, we talked about BTK last time too. You know, it's hard to do a second interview when you've done one already. You try to recreate the same interview because you don't want to. You kind of hesitate. You shorten your answers with everything. It's this. Well, I don't ask the same questions. But BTK, we talked about that. That is such a. There's so many things with that. Like first of all, the business of all the photographs that supposedly he took of himself. Can you describe that?
Yeah, I've looked on those photographs on the internet, and it really is highly unlikely that he was doing this all on his own because, like you said in the last interview, he was buried in sand and taking pictures on a tripod, allegedly, and he was had ropes around him, and he was literally dangling from the floor somewhere, making pictures. So yeah.
Right, he's buried into his neck. He's buried up to his neck, and he's bound and hanging from, like you said, taking pictures taken from behind. You know, some of the stuff you can do with a timer on a camera, but my God, how do you untie yourself? How do you unbury yourself?
I saw, I think, 5 weeks ago, the documentary of the Otero family that young man, the last son of the Otero family, makes statements about that he really believes that Dennis Rader wasn't the only one responsible for the killing of his family. Yeah, very good documentary.
Yeah, he talks about how there was a chair placed in front of the bed, and so that his father was forced to sit in that chair and tied up in that chair and watch his children being murdered. And that also, too, that at one point his father's hands were untied. And in order for him, he says, well, why would you untie somebody's hands? To force them to sign something, you know? Exactly,
yeah. And even the investigator of BTK, who was also interviewed in the documentary, acknowledged the son's theory that he may be right, yeah.
And BTK himself says, what do you call it, that... he says, well, you were holding the gun on them the whole time? He says, well, except when I was tying them up. You know, like, what do you do? You put the gun down? Like, this makes no sense.
That's also if you believe the official story about Carrie Stainer, that he abducted and take hostage of these 3 women with one gun, is also very unlikely. I mean, and also with Richard Speck in Chicago. I mean, one guy murdering 9 nurses and raping all of them one by one. I mean, that's who believes that?
Or Bundy getting into that sorority house and murdering them all one by one.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's the same thing over and over. Now, but back to BTK. You don't believe it's BTK stands for bind, torture, kill, right? Well, what do you think it stands for?
Yeah, I've read somewhere that it's also an U.S. Air Force squadron term. It's entitled Born to Kill. Like the helmet on Full Metal Jacket from Stanley Kubrick.
And just like what's his name, Berkowitz said, "Born to Kill." You know, born to be created to do this. Yeah. So BTK is just so obviously now he's alive today in prison, right? He hasn't suicided himself yet.
No, he's still alive. He always said he had an illness called Factor X, which he described as a reptilian frog he saw before him. So. Also pretty interesting statement about reptilian frogs and Factor X. Now we have the Factor X live music singing with the children.
Yeah, very bizarre, man. Very bizarre. Oh my God. Now, how high do you think this goes?
I really think it's all linked with secret societies and the upper echelon of government